So Ian Garry's wife was allegedly in Dillon Danis' DMs in 2018, so I guess we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about this video, which I'm going to show you in this video as well. I'm going to save that one for you because it's very interesting. Then we're going to talk about Michael Bisping's wife calling out Ian Garry's wife in a very based way. What a chadette she is. Then we're going to talk about Ian Garry allegedly being slept in the gym at Killcliff badly, and I have reason to believe that it was Shavkat Rakhmonov, and that's based on this clip. And I'm just going to leave that one for the end, but I think this kind of proves that it maybe was Rakhmonov that slept Ian Garry in the gym. We're going to go through all of this right away. I'm going to skim through some of the stuff because I don't want to come across like a bully. With this clip here, a lot of people are making somewhat of a big deal out of it. One, we don't know if it's real because it's as per Dillon Danis. So it's like, you know, we got to take things with a pinch of salt here. He also said he was going to throw a punch at Logan Paul. You know what I mean? So we don't know if we can trust everything he says. At the end of the day, it was in 2018. It was before they were together officially, as far as I remember. It's also just a prayer sign, England but half Brazilian, how are you today? And then it could have been, which we don't see, would love to do an interview sometime for BT Sport or something, because she does work in the media. So I'm not just looking for anything to trash this woman in any way, but it's just interesting seeing these things get dug up and how Dillon Danis is now involved in it as well. And, you know, it does seem like, where you from? England but half Brazilian, by the way. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It does seem a little bit, you know, suggestive in the way that it's being texted. Very cool, doing great. Where do you live? Dillon Danis talking like a robot to these women. Based, I guess. So yeah, there's a DM section there. I don't even want to go into this. I've seen people make full videos about this. It's just like Dillon Danis is now involved in the Ian Garry bullying club. And this is welcome, brother. You know what I'm saying? It's getting a bit packed, I'll be honest. Might have to start kicking some people out if they're not putting in their shift. Either way. Dillon Danis is now in the We Hate Ian Garry club. So he's going after Leila Machado Gary for being in his DMs in 2018. It is interesting to note that she was reaching out to a bunch of fighters before she ended up with Ian Garry. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like she didn't choose you, you were what was left type thing. You don't know where this conversation ended up going either, by the way. Maybe it did end up going somewhere with this conversation. Dillon's obviously not going to release that until he gets 1 million likes on this post. This is an interesting post, though. Speaking of, like, maybe she had a one-night stand with, Dillon Danis. Who knows? This is interesting. I'm going to play you this clip real quick. Have a listen.
Interesting. See, I'm one of those girls who's terrible at being single. That's the first thing. I end up in a relationship when I didn't want to, right? This was meant to be a one-night stand, and that's not very well at all, right?
This was meant to be a one-night stand. That's not gone very well at all. Now, is this true? Was it really supposed to be a one-night stand? Or was the one-night stand the trap of this witch? You know what I mean? That's where she cast the spells on them. You know what I mean? That's where she, like, pours the eye of a newt into her ear. Or into Ian Garry's ear after he's passed out afterwards. You know what I mean? And she takes, like, the feather of a raven and combusts it above him and makes him inhale the fumes, and then he's bewitched. And let's not get carried away here, but it's interesting to hear her say, you know, I'm one of those girls when she's 40, which is pretty interesting. I don't want to bully her though, but this is just interesting to me because I think in general, and I'm not perfect in things that I say online, okay, but in general, you just heard her. This was supposed to be a one-night stand, and now look at us. You know what I mean? In general, when it comes to relationships, you should live your relationship publicly based on what your kids are going to see someday. That's what I'm going to take this to. Fair enough, I've said some stuff online, but if I'm ever in a relationship, I'm not going to openly say online, yeah, it was actually a one-night stand and we just stuck around. Your kids are going to look this stuff up in the future and say, oh, I wonder how mummy and daddy got together. What's a one-night stand? Immediately, at like 8 years old, as soon as they get their hands on an iPad. You got to think about these things. It's the same way I don't really have a problem with Sean O'Malley's relationship dynamic. I don't agree with it. I wouldn't do it. especially the original dynamic that they had, but he's now sort of shut her off to her opportunities. But I don't agree, especially with Sean O'Malley literally bragging about it online, on podcasts. He can't stop mentioning it on podcasts. Your daughter's going to grow up and see that is the dynamic that you and your wife had. It's so weird to me how people are so open to talk about these things, knowing that they're going to have kids or already have kids. Like, that doesn't even cross their mind. They're just like, oh, how do I seem cool and quirky and hip in this interview? Think. You know what I mean? At best, my kids are going to grow up and see, oh, he made a really cringe impression of that one dude, or he made a risky joke once. You got to keep this shit under wraps, man. It's real interesting to me. But apparently Ian Garry was supposed to be a one-night stand that went AWOL. Or maybe that's just her trap. You know what I'm saying? As I said. You know what I mean? The heart of a pheasant was combined with the claw of a raven in a cauldron in the corner of the room. Not Ian Garry's corner of the room. That's a different corner with a chair in it. Either way, Michael Bisping's wife has entered the club. There's too many members in here now. You know what I mean? I feel like my members streams. It's packed. Michael Bisping's wife has... Look at Bisping's face. By the way, this is him just reading out a question about Ian Garry. Bisping's just like, oh my word. Wow, baby boy. And he doesn't want to answer it. But then Rebecca Bisping steamrolls in with her own take about the situation. And let's have a listen.
Is good.
What's the thoughts on the Ian Garry situation? The thought is we shouldn't really be talking about his wife. You know what I mean? So
she wants to be talked about.
Oh God.
She wants to be talked about.
Oh God. Oh God. What are you doing?
It's clearly evident.
Giving MMA guru content, it seems, Bisping. Thank you very much, Bisping's wife. I can't remember her name. I should have remembered her name. What was her name? I just got to try and maybe hear Bisping say it in his voice. Rebecca! That's what it is. Rebecca Bisping. I almost said Callum for a second there. Rebecca Bisping chimes in. She wants to be talked about. Based! We know she does.
Evident. She wants to be talked about. I'm not saying anything bad.
I have risen above it.
I'm not supposed to.
I have risen above it.
I'm allowed to talk about her.
I have risen above it for 1 hour 45 minutes.
And I have been an MMA wife for a lot longer than her.
Oh
so
God!
I am allowed. I am qualified to talk about this.
You're a wag.
No, I am not.
Stop it.
Okay. All right, Bisping. The whole chat when she mentioned this went absolutely crazy because the whole time this stream, if you go back and look, there's so many people just like, what do you think about the Ian Garry thing? And Bisping's eyes are just bolting around like, any other questions, anyone? And they just completely broke and imploded whenever she mentioned this.
She wants to be talked about.
Stop it.
Okay.
Oh God.
You're making it so much worse.
Oh God. Oh jeez Louise. Is that no, that's his family. Be nice. Be nice.
I'm being nice. I'm not.
Damn. What's being bad then? What's being rude? If that was the nice approach, but I think she does want to be talked about as well, which is sort of maybe she's manipulated me into talking about this. Who knows? Maybe this is part of Leila Machado Gary's grand plan. Who knows? To get the media swirling. Maybe they want to become like the Kardashians of the MMA world. It's kind of working. I'll be honest with you. Well done. I bet those book sales have gone up. Hopefully Covington brought a copy. And hopefully he brings it to the press conference, boys. Either way, let's get into some realness. Silliness aside, I want to talk about this as well. This is Brendan Allen's interview with Mark Raimondi. And he mentions, because I think Ian Garry and him have been sort of going back and forth, and obviously Brendan Allen's going to show allegiance to Luke Kay, who's been at the gym for way longer at Killcliff because he trains there as well. And he was sort of annoyed at Ian Garry always recording everything in the gym, I think, because he recorded like Shavkat. Ian Garry's team recorded Shavkat and the Bellator champ, can't remember his name off the top of my tongue, recorded them two wrestling when he shouldn't have apparently, and Brendan Allen had a certain way to feel about that, but he mentions that Garry got slept in the gym. Listen up, and I have proof of who did it.
Excuse he wants. And then, like, you get things like someone posted a video of Shavkat and Jason wrestling I was there on that day. I watched it. I was 2 feet from it. One, I feel how I feel about the video, but two, I think he commented somewhere on there. I heard someone say he commented somewhere on there.
And he commented about it, but Ian Garry recorded that video and he feels a certain way about it, which does kind of match up with Leon Edwards saying that he's constantly got his cameras around the gym and recording everything, and no one really wants to be recording in the gym. It's supposed to be a private place, and you know what I mean? So it kind of matches up the storyline with what Edwards was saying about Ian Garry bringing his whole camera crew to the gym every day and not just showing up to train like everyone else, you know?
It's like he records everything, right? Like they record everything. But just know there's video, and he knows what name not to say to let it come out of what happened to him. I'm not going to release it, but just know there is someone in that gym that has slept him out. So for him to come in and say, oh, everyone knows how good he is striking and how good he is here and this and that and this and that. Yeah, everyone has their days. Hell, he's probably got the better of me a couple sparring sessions, but there's many sparring sessions I did what I did too. So I don't know. I think like it's just a lot of talk, and it's hard to say gym.
So he talks about, I know, trust me, he's been slept badly at Killcliff. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is Shavkat Rakhmonov. He mentions in this interview as well how Ian Garry always talks good of Shavkat, and you hear him, he don't have anything bad to say about Shavkat, always good, and how good Shavkat is and how amazing Shavkat is. This is an old clip of Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy. As you can see, a flood of God, I'm going to mess up the name of the country. Kazakhstan flags? Kyrgyzstan? One of the two. I think it's Kazakhstan. Shavkat. It's Kazakhstan, I think. This guy found a clip of Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy talking about Ian Garry and Shavkat Rakhmonov in the gym. Listen to the way they talk about it and tell me if you think, side by side with Brendan Allen's story, if you think this sort of alludes to the fact that Shavkat may have knocked him out.
All right, enough bagging on Ian Garry. I think he's the future. I think he's got a lot of talent.
He's good.
But I'm going to say right now, they train in the same gym, him and Shavkat. And I would love to tell you how that sparring goes, but I can't get out to watch out and find it. But
I'd love to tell you how that sparring goes, but I can't. And you have to find out, I guess. And that was just after, like, going after Ian Garry a bit and talking a bit of ish about him on their podcast. So it's on the theme of, let's talk a bit more about Ian Garry and how annoying he is. Let's bring up the sparring with Shavkat.
But I know exactly how it goes.
I know how it goes too. I've talked to him.
So
they both know. Why do they both know? The only reason, no one is saying, no one's seeing a sparring session where Shavkat minorly gets the better of Ian Garry and being like, everyone needs to know about this, because they don't know if the next day Ian Garry gets the better of him. The only reason a story about a sparring session would spread to both of these guys individually is if something major happened. Enough to be like a quick, Ian Garry got knocked out by Shavkat today. That's the type of thing I'm hearing from this. And they keep speaking about it as well.
So,
I mean, Ian Garry.
But if you're Ian
get your
Garry,
mind right, buddy.
No. Look at if you're.
Get your mind right, buddy. And a smug look on Josh Thompson's face. Get your mind right. Interesting stuff.
Ian Garry, you're doing things the right way. You're building your brand.
I
You're
agree.
looking fantastic in the fights. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep going back to camp and getting better at everything. And you've got some ground to make up. You've got ground to make up because there's people that are in your camp that are difficult to deal with right now. So, hey, just keep getting better.
I think it's Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think that tells me all I need to know. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov KO'd Ian Garry in the gym badly, enough for Josh Thompson and John McCarthy to both hear about it. Great. Dude, what is... I'm so glad we've got this content, dude. Whenever there's a slow week, something always pops up in the MMA world, I feel like, right? So we got this. I think it was Shavkat that knocked out Ian Garry. Brendan Allen also talks about Shavkat in this clip. There's an extra bit of it I should have shown in the video. Based Rebecca Bisping joining in on the hatred club. Pretty cool. This is interesting as well. Just same thing with O'Malley. You want to have her open relationship where she can't do anything and you can. When she can do everything, it's so much weirder. But you want to do everything while she can't. Keep it non-public information. Like, it's just fair enough. He's bigging himself up, and that's the only reason he must be sharing that story, is so he can big himself up. Like, yeah, look how I'm running the game of my relationship. It's just trashing his wife and his kids. Like, they're gonna see that someday. You got to live life on the condition that you're going to have a kid that sees what your life was. You know what I mean? That's how you keep people in check. It used to be what God did in the Western world. You know what I mean? One big babysitter, if you will. Just to, like, someone's watching, and it sort of kept everyone in check. See, since we've sort of gone a bit godless over here, people have gotten a lot more degenerate, I'll be honest with you. Other than that, the DMs, I don't really care about this, to be honest with you. She messaged him. She said, how are you today? Started a conversation with him in his DMs. Like, I don't know. People, I think, looked into this a bit much. But it is interesting to know that she was sort of like reaching out to a lot of fighters, including Dillon Danis, before she eventually went with Ian Garry. So that's what you can kind of take from it. But it could be fucking fake. It's Dillon Danis. Like, we got to mention that as well. You know what I mean? We got to mention that as well. You know. It's Dillon Danis. So take it with a pinch of salt is all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, Ian Garry. You know what? I'm going to do an advice video for Colby Covington at the press conference and what I want him to do. Give him ammunition like I gave to Strickland against Adesanya. I'm probably going to give an advice video for Ian Garry at some point as well. More Ian Garry content. He's the biggest name in combat sports. He's the star of UFC 296, whether he likes it or not. He just needs to turn full heel. Maybe that's a video coming out soon. Who knows? See you later. Goodbye.